Hey everybody, wanted to do a quick video on how to enter in GPS coordinates onto Google Maps so that you could find a location. Typically we'll see this with a hiker rescue. The first part, I'll give you a really quick rundown of how to do this. That'll get you through probably 90–95% of the calls that we'll have and the way that the coordinates are given to you. And then if you're interested, you can stick around for a little bit longer discussion in case you get an odd set of coordinates or you're just curious about how latitude, longitude works. I'm hoping to still keep that pretty quick so I don't bore you to death. So here's the quick and easy way to do it. Go open up Google Maps, find a location that's not near an address, press and hold. The coordinates will come up, go into the search bar, and just change those coordinates to match the coordinates that are showing up on the MDT. So far, what I've seen from what dispatch is giving us are the decimal degrees. So the format you see here is called decimal degrees, a number, a decimal, and then a set of more numbers. In our district, you'll almost always see the 32 and the -110. So you don't even have to change those. Just change those series of digits after the decimal, and it'll take you to the location. The one catch to this is if you press and hold on an actual address, when you click in the search bar, of course it didn't do it there. Let me get a house maybe. When you click into the search bar, it's going to give you the address that it thinks that house is at. That's super helpful for day-to-day normal life. But when we're looking for coordinates, you need to find an area that the map doesn't think has an address at it. And when you click it there, it'll just stay there. So that's the quick and easy way to do it. So let's go into a little bit deeper discussion of latitude, longitude, in case you get coordinates in a different format. And just as a sidebar, decimal degrees tends to be what everybody is using these days. Aircraft really like it. The sheriff seems to like it. Sarah seems to like it. So try to use those coordinates, get used to them if you can. So back to elementary school, and I'll tell you the way I remember it. You have north, south, east, west coordinates, right? So it always comes latitude first, longitude second. You can remember that by LA comes before LO. So that's how you'll actually write the coordinates. Latitude, the way to remember that, or the way I remembered in elementary school, was that the latitude were kind of like the rungs on a ladder. And as you go up the rungs, you're going farther north. As you go down the rungs, you're going farther south. Those rungs go left to right, just like the lines of latitude on this map go left to right. Longitude are like the beams. They run from north to south. As you go from beam to beam, you're moving east to west. Okay. The handy thing is, in Golden Ranch Fire District, we're always going to be north. And north is in relation to the equator, so always north of the equator. And we're always going to be west, and west is of the prime meridian. So you don't have to worry about, any other coordinates. Where this comes into play is that negative number. You saw 32 and then -110. So the 32 is north. North is always a positive number. The -110 is west, and west is always a negative number. So in district, you're always going to represent it a positive 32 and a -110. Now, if you get the degrees, minutes, seconds, and you're going to represent it with a north or a west, you don't put in the negative, because telling it north is letting the program that you're using know that it's positive, and when you put in the west, you're letting it know that it's negative. It's doing those conversions behind the scene. So if you put in -110, you also put in the W for west, Google is going to see that as an error, and it's going to throw you a problem. It doesn't recognize it that way. It either sees the -110 or 110 with a W for west, and I'll show you that a little bit later. Let's see, this was a good one to show you. So here are some of the different ways you can represent coordinates. So you see the decimal degrees as the top. Again, that's the preferred way. And then 2 down here, you'll see degrees, minutes, seconds. 32 degrees, 28 minutes, 55.71 seconds. So if I double tap that, copy it, we can move over into Google Maps. I'll paste that in. You can represent it this way in Google Maps. Hit the search bar and it'll find that coordinate, right? The other way you can do it and still have success, just to make it easier for you to read it, is put a comma in there. Hit search. Google will still recognize it. Here's the other thing we can do. We can put in north, and we can put in, oops. Okay, so based on what I told you before, is that going to work? Nope. Why is that? Because the negative and the west are representing the same thing. And so if you put in a -110 and then west on the end, Google doesn't know what the heck you're trying to tell it. So if we just remove the negative, it recognizes it. Okay, so those are some of the ways you can enter in coordinates that are degrees, minutes, seconds. If you're going to, again, I wouldn't recommend you do this unless this is the only way you get the coordinates and you have to do it. This is the format you have to represent it in, right? You have to have the degree sign. You have to have minutes, which is an apostrophe, then the seconds, which is a quote. You don't have to have decimal seconds. It could just be 55, for example. Of course, it's not as accurate, but that's how you'd represent it if you get decimal seconds. You saw before the comma doesn't need to be there, and you don't need the northwest letters in there. If you don't have the west, you're going to have to put -110. And then where the heck do you find that degree symbol? Good luck. It just depends on the phone and then the keyboard that you have installed. For me, I kind of have to dig pretty deep, and you can see right in the middle of my screen is that degree symbol. What's tricky is if I hold down the 0, I get what looks to be a degree symbol, but it is not. That is another symbol. So you're going to have to play with this beforehand if you're going to try to enter in the format this way to make it work. What's handy are there apps now, like the one I originally showed you. There it is. Where you can enter in coordinates, right? Okay. And then it'll represent all those coordinates in different ways. And so if I know the degrees, minutes, seconds, because that's what someone gave me on scene, that's what they brought up on their phone or their mapping app or their GPS unit on their bike, and that's the format that originally came in, you can input that number, and then it'll give you the decimal degrees that you can then copy, come over to whatever mapping program you want to use, go into the search bar, paste it in, hit search, and it'll take you to the correct spot. So hopefully that was helpful. If you have any questions, please reach out. Let me know. Thanks for watching.